What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, we're starting to get more sales data for the Switch 2, this time though in the US, and some of these figures that are coming out after this console launch is actually showing the industry doing stuff that it hasn't since 2008, and we're going to go over that here today. Also, we're going to be talking about Judas, which has kind of disappeared for a while. We thought it was going to come out this year, and clearly it hasn't. Well, they did give us some more information around the game, and even kind of responding to when exactly is this thing coming out. Then we'll also be talking about PlayStation Plus Essentials with their lineup for September, because while it looks pretty good, well, the headliner is strangely from Microsoft, another interesting twist. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or link in the description down below. And we're gonna start today with Nintendo and them renaming a studio and kind of giving them an expanded purpose here. We can see this though posted up. This is over on their website saying strengthening ancillary use of films featuring Nintendo intellectual property, saying Nintendo hereby announces that Warpstar Inc., which became a consolidated subsidiary as of April 1st, 2025, has changed its name to Nintendo Stars. The company has been restructured as a Nintendo subsidiary responsible for the ancillary use of business tied to films that feature Nintendo intellectual property. Prior to this, as you may guess from the name, Warpstar mostly just dealt with Kirby, specifically like Kirby merchandise, and there was like Kirby anime or show or something. It was mostly just stuff outside of video games that they were managing. Now, though, opening them up to, well, just dealing with a bunch of Nintendo IPs that are, for example, the Mario movie coming up, the Zelda movie the following year, and then all the merchandise and PR and things that follow with that. They'll be responsible for keeping up to date and making sure everything's in line there, and it's pretty clear Nintendo has no plans of stopping when it comes to the big screen, or just them becoming more and more of an entertainment company. So yes, this is actually a pretty important thing. Even though they're renaming Warpstar, they're also kind of expanding what they'll exactly be doing. Also this year, one of the breakout successes has been Claire Obscur Expedition 33, and now we're starting to hear that maybe we're gonna have Claire Obscur just kind of be its own franchise, like Final Fantasy, as in the title and naming almost. We can see this though posted. This is over on The Gamer, and they are citing Mr. Matty Plays, who did an entire interview here with the creative director for Claire Obscur Expedition 33, where he went on to say Claire Obscur is the franchise name. Expedition 33 is one of the stories that we want to tell in this franchise. Exactly what it will look like and what the concept will be is still too soon to announce. But what is sure is that this is not the end of the Claire Obscur franchise. And look, Claire Obscur Expedition 33, again, breakout success. It's very obvious that now you have millions and millions of people who will recognize Claire Obscur as the title, and then you can kind of tack on whatever you want then for the next story. And I'm not spoiling anything from Claire Obscur at all, but if you've played through it, there are a lot of twists and turns in the game, clearly. But if you've played through it, I think you can also kind of start to figure out how they could tell different stories in that universe while keeping Claire Obscur as like the main header, and then tacking on whatever they want, again, to tell an entirely different story still in that world and kind of have it somewhat connected, maybe even parallel to each other. It's hard to kind of describe what I'm getting at here without spoiling everything for you. Just go play Claire Obscur Expedition 33. It's a great game, and it'll probably make more sense then. Oh, and we need to get word from Square Enix on how Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate will play on the Switch 2. And this was kind of going back and forth around 30 FPS or 40 FPS, which you can see this over on their official account. They say Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate launches this winter on Nintendo Switch 2, running at a stable 30 frames per second, offering smooth performance and crisp visuals. I mean, I don't know if smooth performance at 30 frames is necessarily something you put next to each other, but there was discussion around 40 FPS in handheld mode because a rep at Square Enix apparently said that at Gamescom said it was 40 FPS. We've already seen multiple times where the reps who are just kind of managing the demo stations don't necessarily always have the correct information, or they're kind of guessing themselves, and that feels like what happened here. So not 40 FPS in handheld mode, although I'm actually shocked it's not, because that would make a lot of sense to have set up in handheld mode with VRR and be able to take advantage of all of that. No, instead, at least for now, it looks like 30 FPS for Final Fantasy VII on the Switch 2, and at this point, we're just kind of waiting for that release date. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the US sales in the video game market. Now, this is covered by Circana and Matt Piscatella over on his social media account, and he did a big rundown of how the hardware sold and the software, which means we do have a top 10, as you can see here, and we'll just kind of do the top 10 as he shows the top 20, but for time's sake, we have EA Sports College Football 26, no surprise there. It was huge last year for EA. There's a ton of excitement around college football coming back to video games, and it continues that streak here with its release for 26. We have EA Sports MVP Bundle 2025, there you go. I think that's where they tie, if I'm not mistaken, college football and Madden together. Someone in the comments correct me if that's wrong. Then we have Donkey Kong Bonanza at 3. Keep in mind, there's a little asterisk there. It's because there's no digital copies counted here. These are just physical Donkey Kong Bonanza copies. Just, again, that's pretty good. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 coming in at 4. So the 4 of the top 5 are all new releases, which is good to see because then you see Call of Duty Black Ops 6, of course, in there. Then we have Minecraft, Forza Horizon 5, Grounded 2, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Grand Theft Auto 5 because, sure, of course, why not have Grand Theft Auto 5 there again? Still a lot of anticipation around 6, so maybe it's selling just on that alone. Anyway, as for the hardware, the Switch 2 was the best-selling system for July. In fact, it has now surpassed 2 million units sold in the US life to date. That's pretty quick considering the Switch 1, if you compare the two of them, the Switch 2 is 75% ahead of the Switch 1. If in terms of launch alignment. So you can see the Switch 2 is rolling along there in the US. I would still, at this time, because it's still so early, attribute that more to stock allocation by Nintendo to the US. And we know, I mean, I still consistently, when I go by Walmart and I stop by the electronics, I will see Switch 2s in there. And then, you know, next time I go back, they're not there, then they are there. So it does seem like there's just a consistent supply coming in for the Switch 2. And credit to Nintendo, they are pushing supply out there. That's something that they've gotten flack for in the past, where it feels like they're even doing it on purpose sometimes. Not the case here with the Switch 2. Now, if you go back to 2008, right now, this is the highest hardware spending we've seen in July, outright, since 2008. And think back to that point, okay? The 360, the PS3, and the Wii were all rolling along. The PS3 lagging behind, I'd say, but it caught its stride a year or so later. Really, when that Slim started to show up, they were kind of off to the races. That and like Uncharted 2 and stuff like that. But the Wii was super hot at this time. The 360 really hot at this time. So we have to go back to that era to really be able to compare to what we saw here just this past July. And the interesting thing is you would have to point to the Switch 2 as really being the thing that's kind of pulling the hardware sales to that point, since the PS5 did fall 47% year over year, and the Xbox Series fell 69%, there we go, year over year. And that's, I mean, those are pretty big drops, but the PS5 makes more sense considering the price increase hadn't happened yet for it, but we are going into sort of the later half at this time of its generation, and more than 80 million units have sold worldwide. You start to run out of people to sell to, and the Xbox just costs too much. It just does. It's $600 for an Xbox Series X. Where are we, right? Anyway, the Switch 2 is now the best-selling system of 2025 in the US outright. So yes, the Switch 2 is doing really well, and that's not really surprising to me. We haven't even seen the system have its first holiday season, and it's just cruising right now. No problems there. I think Nintendo will end up raising their forecast for the hardware side. The software side is still the thing that I'm like unsure of. I think they'll do well with Pokemon. I think that'll probably be one of the biggest drivers for software. Just, it has more mainstream appeal than anything I feel like they're lining up for the holiday season. I know Metroid Prime 4, that's my most anticipated game they still have on the docket. It's not going to stand up to Pokemon, like, come on. So at that time, I think that's going to be what drives them forward with software. But from there, Mario Kart, Donkey Kong, I still think it's going to be a bit harder for them to get to. I think they're right now looking for 45 million pieces of software in the fiscal year running up to the end of March. That's the thing that might be the difficult part, not the hardware. As much hardware as they can make, they're going to sell, and I feel like they're going to continue ramping up production, and we'll see how things go when they do cross their first holiday season later this year. Next up, let's talk about Judas, which has been around here and there. I mean, we had that trailer, like you can see it here. This is from the Game Awards, back in 2022. But since then, we've had these occasional updates through interviews by Ken Levine, who's very well known, clearly, for BioShock, right? For a lot of us, one of the top tier games in all of gaming history. Otherwise, though, it's been pretty quiet with big official reveals, and we thought it was going to be out this year just because the way it was kind of being framed by Take-Two. Hasn't happened. However, we do have some new details through an update that was published to PlayStation Blog. They mentioned that they would like to keep more contact with gamers through blog posts like this, so we'll see how frequent these end up being. But they did mention a new feature, Villainy, in Judas. So apparently this is how your actions will attract members of a big three. That they just keep referring to them as big three, and by, say, ignoring one of them would turn them into a villain. And that would then open you up to all sorts of, I guess, gadgets or powers and stuff, and ways that you would be building your character. The big three will be characters that you get to know really, really well, and I guess the idea is one of them turning into a villain would feel like a legit betrayal to you in the game. And because of this, with this new feature, they had recently completed the biggest playtest yet using it. Here's the issue, though. At the end, they have no firm release date still. And, they brought it up themselves. When is this thing coming out? No release date, no release window, no year, but they had new key art to show. There you go. It looks good, I guess. So still some vague details, I feel like, here. But this is a game that is highly anticipated because of what Ghost Story Games with Ken Levine behind it. And while he did do BioShock Infinite, and that wasn't as well received as the first BioShock, right now, it seems like Take-Two is just having a hard time making another BioShock game. So this is kind of the next thing up for people, is keeping an eye on this. Because again, seemed like it was going to be out, now it's not. And well, maybe they're just holding on to it to just polish it more, spend more time developing, and hopefully can recapture some of what we got with BioShock way back in the day. It's going to be difficult because that is one of those once in a generation games. For some, maybe once a multiple generation games, but it would be really cool to see them get even close to that with something like Judas. So at this time, we'll be keeping an eye out, I guess, on PlayStation Blog for different updates when they're ready to share them. Next up, let's talk about PlayStation Plus Essentials for the month of September. And I looked at this lineup and I said, this is a really good month for Essential tier. Let's take a look this over on PlayStation Blog, starting at the top with the banner game, Psychonauts 2. It is from Microsoft, but this is a good game if you haven't played it. It is a weird game, but it's a really cool 3D platformer action kind of game. The thing that I noticed about this, though, is all the games, Viewfinder, but all the games are mostly PS4 based. That does include Psychonauts 2, but still, really, really cool game. If you missed it completely, I recommend downloading it here and trying it out. The next one really needs no introduction, but it is a high quality release, Stardew Valley. This is a game you can get lost in, hundreds of hours. I know people have been playing this game for years now. And it's a take kind of on, yes, I get Harvest Moon, but also some Rune Factory in there. It's been built up so much over time, just through updates and other things. It is a massive game that if you're going to jump into it, good luck. So you'll get lost. The other one, though, I was kind of interested in. I remember seeing this a while ago. I think at one of the indie shows or presentations, maybe it's a state of play, Viewfinder. So this is where you use an instant camera. It's like a Polaroid camera kind of, right? And as you go through, you'll take pictures. You then get the picture and you hold it up in the world and it will change what's in front of you. And it plays around with perspective and stuff, with puzzle. It looks really cool. But I will admit, I saw it and then kind of forgot about it. This is a fun way to remind me, because now I'm just going to download it when it releases. That's on, all these go into PlayStation Plus Essential on September 2nd, and this is just a good lineup. Now, I also want to bring up August. Those will be going away soon, so if you have not claimed them, they're gone September 1st. That's Lies of P, Daisy, and My Hero 1's Justice 2. I would say this month is better, though. So that's great. Going from a pretty good month there to a really good month. Definitely check out Psychonauts 2, Stardew Valley, and I'll let you know about Viewfinder. But we'll see how that one goes. Again, I have a lot that I'm playing right now, but that does seem like one I at least want to experience that core mechanic using the instant pictures to change the world. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Microsoft and their continued push for cloud gaming, which I feel like the rollout has just been slow. And I know they've been talking about really changing things for next generation, and maybe that's one of the reasons this is taking a little longer than I thought it would. But Stadia had the technology right. They just couldn't figure out the ecosystem. Nvidia seems to also have the technology right, and they're just allowing you to use things like your Steam games and stuff. Microsoft trying to do everything all at once, and maybe that's part of it. But now it looks like they're starting to tap into the Game Pass core audience and Game Pass Standard, and that, I think, will then allow them to do the cheaper option that they've kind of floated with just streaming. This, though, we can see over on their official website. This is for news.xbox.com, mentioning that as part of this insider experience, Xbox Game Pass Core and Standard subscribers will be able to stream cloud playable games included with their subscription or select cloud playable games they own, making it easier to jump in from any supported devices. One other part, they will have different PC versions of select titles that will be added into Game Pass Core and Standard. So if you want, you can just play it on PC or a Windows handheld. That kind of makes sense with the whole ROG Ally or Xbox Ally X thing that's happening here. It'd be kind of weird if really Core had no other function outside of Xbox. So I think that's another part of this as well, is to make it so that Game Pass Core can do things outside of just that console, because we just talked about it, how it dropped like 70% basically. They're starting to look outside of just that box, which again, they're still going to make another one for next generation, but then I'm sure we'll come back to this and talk about it again, 8 years from now or something, if Microsoft should still continue in the hardware game. But for now, they need to continue expanding out with this cloud service, because I know cloud gaming isn't the first choice for many of us out there, but it is something that can be convenient and work in a pinch depending on the situation, especially with how big these games are getting. It's actually not a terrible idea to have it as a way to kind of test a game before you commit to 150 gigabytes worth of download. So just be able to jump in, try it out, and see what you think, can at times even save you, from that. So there you go. If you're a Game Pass Core or Standard member, keep an eye out. This is part of the Insider Hub, but that usually means it'll be pushed just to regular users later on soon. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, have you tried either Xbox or PlayStation cloud gaming options? 56% say no, 44% say yes. Yeah, that's the thing. If you have Game Pass Ultimate, I recommend trying it out once. Just see what you think with it. If you don't have it, then okay, well, you just kind of have to hang out. Maybe, hey, it goes to Core, you could try it there. For PlayStation, their premium game cloud streaming is actually pretty good, shockingly good at times. So if you have that, okay, yeah, try it out there. That's the thing, though. They need to get to where there is a low-cost option for this to be more, mainstream. It has to be that situation of, it kind of just almost surprised you. It's like, oh yeah, okay, it's part of where they were doing the LG TV thing. Or if you have that, you can download and install the app, and boom, you can just play Xbox. Again, the big hang-up, though, is you need a controller. So it's certainly not as spur of the moment as something like Netflix or Amazon Prime or Disney Plus, where you just happen to come across that's where maybe a movie or a show is, and you hit a few buttons and boom, you're just watching it. No, you hit a few buttons and then realize, oh, I need an Xbox or a PlayStation controller to even experience this. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Austin Statkus, who says, the Lost Soul Aside issue brings up an interesting point. Whether the game is actually on the disc or not is a huge issue these days, but with significant day one patches basically required to fix the game, what if the game included on the disc isn't even a version you'd want to play without the patches available? Yeah, that is a real shame, what we're hearing with Lost Soul Aside, where apparently the version on the disc, and this has been pretty much confirmed by them on social media, it's not a great version to play. You'll want the day one patch, and then you download the patch and it's 18 gigabytes, and you're like, how much of the game is actually even on the disc at this point? And then you go, it feels like that disc is kind of worthless. It does almost then feel like it's there to trigger the download for the game, right? Kind of like those games that we get on PS5 for Indiana Jones, Call of Duty, that have the Ultra Blu-rays that can hold 100 gigabytes, but they don't put much on the disc. You have to download the whole thing. It's not that different. Yes, you can play a broken version of the game that's just not great in terms of quality, and it'll probably annoy you because you probably die from frame drops and all kinds of stuff. You can do that. But is that what you're really spending $70 to experience? So my hope is that later on, maybe they reissue a disc for Lost Soul Aside that does have the fixed quote-unquote version on the disc. Otherwise, what's the point? You may as well just go download it outright and just go all digital with that game. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you want to hear more about what I think is like the best redemption story maybe in gaming. Certainly a title that it's not normal now in 2025. I checked that out in a video. I'll leave that right below it. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.